This week, spring camping and our first travel days of 2025 in the Saber 37 RV Miles fifth wheel. We hit the road and I'm going to tell you about all it took to get there. This is RV Miles.
Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways, in campgrounds, and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars and base plates to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and now they have fifth wheel hitches too. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit blueox.com for more information. Harvest Host is a membership that allows RVers to take a rest from the road and enjoy unlimited overnight stays at over 5,100 unique locations in North America, like breweries, farms, attractions, wineries, and much more. Easily plan and book your next RV trip and enjoy over $1,500 in exclusive member benefits by joining Harvest Host. Get 15% off your first year of membership with the code MILES. That's MILES. Go to harvesthost.com to become a Harvest Host member today.
Welcome to episode number 358 of RV Miles. I'm Jason, and along with my wife, Abby, and my three kids, Jack, Ethan, and Henry, we travel the country in a giant 43-foot fifth wheel. Abby is not with me this week. It's just me. Weird change of plans. I'm coming to you from Breckenridge, Colorado. We had a stop in Fort Collins on our way here, and I'm going to talk about the whole route to get to Fort Collins on today's episode. But once we got here in Breckenridge and spent a couple days, Abby got a phone call about a family member that is having a serious health issue, and a single family member who doesn't have anyone to help and was not at home, was in California. So she rented a car and drove to California to meet up with them and help them out. And the boys and I are going stag here, having a great time in Breckenridge. It has been a bit wild with the weather. When we got here, it was sort of in the 60s. Most of the snow had melted and gone. Yesterday, we got absolutely dumped on. I'm recording this the day before Easter, so happy Easter to those who celebrate. And I think from my unofficial count is we got at least 20 inches because I cleaned the back of the truck off. You know, we've got the tonneau cover on the truck bed, and it had at least 8 inches on it when I cleaned it off midday. It continued snowing for the rest of the day. There was at least another 12 inches on top of it when I finally cleaned it off entirely this morning, which took me like an hour to do. It's been really interesting learning to camp in the cold in the new rig. We're not strangers to camping in the cold and the snow, though we don't do it as often as I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people in this campground right here. So I think on another episode, I'm going to talk about what it takes to cold weather camp. I know that's what everybody's looking forward to as we go into the late spring and summer travel season. But we'll talk about that so you can plan for it for your future travels. But today I want to talk about getting the RV ready for the road and our first couple travel days.
More in a moment, but first, if you're like us, you absolutely need internet on your travels. And the sponsor of today's video is a great internet solution for travelers. It's a cellular device that works on multiple carriers from a company called TravelFi. TravelFi allows remote workers or anyone on the move really reliable internet access that allows you to move around freely. You don't have to have a permanent location at all to set it up. It's a small, compact device with no contracts and no commitments. You just pay for the months you use, and it just works really well, really quickly, really easily. And if it isn't working for you, they have a US-based call center to help you troubleshoot. TravelFi allows you to stream, work, and play on the go, whether you need internet in your RV, your cabin, even your hotel room. You can get internet in so many different places thanks to their multi-carrier network, and you can browse and work in confidence and comfort. When you go to their website and use the code RVMiles15, you can get 15% off your device order. Again, no contracts, no commitments. You just pay for the months you're using it for. If you're not traveling in the winter, you don't have to pay for it in those months. There's a link in the description below, or you can go to travelfi.com. That's TRAVLFI.com. There's no E. TRAVLFI.com, or go to the link in the description and use code RV Miles 15 for 15% off. This episode is sponsored by the folks at RV Life. The RV lifestyle is about community, and the RV community is at the heart of RV Life. RV Life recently celebrated the 1 millionth trip planned with RV Life Trip Wizard, their excellent trip planning tool for RVers, featuring all the trusted reviews, pictures, and tips from their RV Life campground site. RV Life also features several blog sites and over 20 additional RVing forums to serve the RV community. All this experience and community feedback come together to help create a fantastic RV trip planner and mobile navigation tool collectively called RV Life Pro. RV Life has marked a milestone of over 3 billion miles traveled using RV Life Pro, counting both the planned RV trips and ad hoc navigation within the included RV Safe mobile app. Take 25% off RV Life Pro at the link in the description for this episode.
So first things first, getting the rig ready. We wanted to have a real serious shakedown trip. If you don't know what a shakedown trip is, it's something that you should do anytime you buy a new RV. A lot of people do it for their first trip of the season. But what it is a trip to a campground close by so that you can figure out any problems that you have, anything you're missing, anything you need, close by to your home, close by to an RV dealership, whatever it might be. So we took our new Saber 37 RV Miles rig to Scott County Park, which is 15 minutes from our house at best. Really, really nice campground. Really impressed with Scott County campgrounds in general. We've spent a lot of time at the Westlake campground as well, but Scott County Park is pretty close to I-80. And it's a county park campground with a real state park feel and full hookups. So that was a really fantastic thing to have to sort of do our shakedown trip. Unfortunately, we didn't have any time to really stay in the RV for our shakedown trip. So all we did was take it out there and park it. And instead of spending the nights at it, we spent the daytimes at it getting it ready. And you do want to check to make sure that that's okay if you ever do that at a campground, because a lot of them don't want you to leave the rig overnight. So anytime we've had to do that, we've had to do that a lot over the years. We just ask and make sure that it's okay that you're not at your rig overnight. And they were fine with it. But again, really, really nice campground, really big sites and full hookups. Fantastic. Plus, there's a big cardboard recycling nearby, which we needed because we had lots and lots of different things that we had shipped to us that we had to open up and throw out tons and tons of cardboard for all the different, products and things that we put inside the rig, stuff that we're going to tell you about on future episodes. But it was a challenge, let me say, for sure, to get this rig ready to go. We underestimated, I think, what it would take to get everything loaded up into it. The last couple times that we've switched RVs, we've just moved from one to the other, so we've just parked it and moved the stuff from one to the other one. And that is overwhelming, actually. That takes a lot longer than you might think it would too. And you think you have like all the stuff that you need, and perhaps you don't. Perhaps some of the stuff that you have needs to be replaced, or some of it doesn't work right, or just your rig has new needs. You may need different sized trash cans. You need a toilet paper holder. You need all sorts of different little things that you don't really think about. So we spent a lot of time figuring out where we're putting, hooks for towels, and how we're going to organize all the pots and pans and plates and all that sort of stuff in the kitchen, and what we don't have in terms of like spices and things like that we didn't want to bring from our house that we want to keep in the rig, pots and pans that we want to keep in the rig. We don't love using this stuff from home, although we did bring a couple things from home, but we like to have stuff in the rig. And that takes some time to go shopping, and we had to get a little step ladder. We had to get all sorts of little stuff that we didn't have. We also ordered a bunch of stuff that we were supposed to get, various different things, that just didn't come in time. And that's been a growing problem in the world of shipping in general, is that stuff just doesn't, you don't get that 2-day Amazon anymore. We don't order that much from Amazon anymore anyway, partially because it's not any more convenient, but stuff just didn't come in time or wasn't going to ship in time. So we had stuff meet us in Fort Collins, Colorado, which was our first major destination of this trip. So we did the best we could to get the rig ready with all the bedding, all the stuff that we needed. And then came the travel day. And we knew our first travel day was going to be a shorter one. And we did this intentionally. And I would highly encourage you for your first travel day of the year to make it a short travel day, or at least make sure you are 100% ready the day before and have nothing to do the next morning, because it took us quite a bit of time. We intended to leave by 1 o'clock at the latest on our first travel day. I think we left a little bit after 4, which is okay. We were driving about 3 hours to near Des Moines. But the big challenge for us was that, we're in a new house. The new house has different needs than our last apartment for what we need to do to get it ready to be alone for 7 to 8 weeks. And we were having sort of weird problems. Like we're a townhome in a community of a bunch of townhomes where, everybody has the same garage door opener. So ever since we've moved in, we've had issues with other people's garage doors opening our garage. And that's an issue when you're going to leave town for 8 weeks. So we had to figure out, okay, what are we going to do about that? I ended up just unplugging the garage door opener, even though I think maintenance has fixed the problem. But I ended up unplugging the garage door opener, going out, the other side of the house. And I think that's going to be okay. But little things like that we had to figure out. And then, we had to pack up our clothes and get our clothes all moved in and all that sort of stuff. There's just stuff that you don't think about that has to be done. And it took us quite a bit of time on that first day to finally hook up and hit the road. But when we did, it was fantastic. It felt so good to be back out on the road again with Abby and the kids. We're all traveling. And it's been a while since we've sort of had that feeling. Last October was our last camping trip to our homecoming rally in Amana, Iowa, which of course should remind you right here, please consider coming to our homecoming rally in Amana, Iowa. The Amana colonies are such a great place. It's a German settlement that has awesome little wineries and breweries and gift shops and more. So there's lots to do in the town beyond the rally. And the rally we keep really low key. It's just a community event where we all hang out. We have games, we have activities, we do a live recording of the podcast, and we give away some door prizes. And this year in particular, already begun working on the door prizes, and I'm really excited because we're going to have some great door prizes. So I'd like you to consider coming. It's sort of our end of the camping season, the traditional summer camping season rally. And it's right off of I-80. So it's real convenient to get to if you're traveling east or west around that time of year. It happens this year a little bit earlier than last year. It's happening the last week of September, and all the information will be in the description for this episode. So we hit the road. And first off, I want to give a shout out to Quick Star Truck Stops. Not really like a full truck stop, but we've got one of these right by our house. Quick Star is the sister of Quick Trip, by the way, if you know Quick Trip, very popular in the Midwest. And Quick Star is sort of, I think, their version of a fuel station that has sort of truck stop-like amenities. They're not the size of most traditional truck stops, but they usually have like 2 to 3 truck lanes. And we've got one right by our house. And it's so great because the prices are good. It has DEF at the pumps, more on that later. And you can start the pumps in the truck lanes with your credit card, which isn't always the case if you're a diesel owner and you use truck stop pumps. Often you have to go in and have somebody start the pumps. This is a good spot for me to plug something else. I'm also putting out today, as I release this is coming out on Easter Sunday in the morning, and tonight I'm putting out a video on diesel, on everything you didn't want to know about diesel fuel. I'm going to talk about biodiesel and premium diesel, number 1, number 2, all that sort of stuff. And I think it's a really good video. And this fuel station sort of inspired me to put that out. So I fueled up before we headed out at the Quick Star. We went and got hooked up and we headed out on the road. And our first destination was a Harvest Host stop. We love to do Harvest Host stops for just sort of the quick overnights. The reason being, we don't love to pay full price for a campground, especially now that it's often $60, $70, $80 a night to go to a campground right off the highway. We love boondocking, and we're fine with going to places like Walmart and Cracker Barrel and that sort of stuff. Usually not the best sleep for us. It's harder to do in a rig this size, 43 foot. We're like 65 foot hooked up. So it's a little different for us in something like this. We've got all the slides. A couple slides have to be put out in order for us to sleep. We don't love doing that in a Walmart parking lot or a place like Cracker Barrel, stuff like that. we'll still do those sorts of locations, but Harvest Host really works for us because we can have sort of a reserved overnight boondocking thing, right? And you do have to pay a little money because you have to patronize that business. They suggest that you patronize that business at a level of $30 a night. So it does cost money, plus your annual membership, but you're getting something out of that money you spent. Often we'll stay at a restaurant or a brewery or winery where they have food, and we'll just get dinner, and that will be our solution. But this time it's a little different. We stayed at a place called Living History Farms in Urbandale, Iowa. Again, just right outside of Des Moines and right off of I-80. This looks like a really, really cool place. I'm very excited, especially since it's only 3 hours from our house, to get back here someday and spend some time here. It is, they have lots of different sort of working farm properties where you and the kids can go experience a lot of historic agriculture. However, they were closed. And they were actually in the middle of building their new visitor center, and the new parking lot was being built, but they still allowed you to stay. What they ask instead is that you leave a donation online. So there are lots of places like this on Harvest Host. There are churches, for instance. If you stay overnight at a church that's on Harvest Host, they're not wanting you to come in and buy stuff. They're just hoping you'll leave a donation. So there are lots of nonprofit organizations like that where you can Harvest Host and stay overnight just for a donation that you can leave online, something like that. We've also stayed at other businesses like wineries where they might be closed, but you can buy a bottle of wine in advance and they just like leave it out in a bag for you or something. And then when you stop for the night, you grab it and have your bottle of wine. So it's really convenient for us, maybe not for you, maybe not for everybody, but we really like this option, especially in the much bigger rig. Oh my gosh, it's snowing now. I didn't know it was gonna snow again. So, like I said, we probably had at least 20 inches of snow. A lot of it has melted today. It got maybe 40 degrees today, so a lot of it is melted. The rig was covered in icicles. Tons of snow over the ground where I'm sitting right now. Is a lot of it's gone, but here we go again. So that night was great because we got to really test out for the first time our new power system that ABC Upfitters installed, this full Master Volt power system with our nearly 1,000 amp hours of batteries and our 1,200 watts of solar, and everything worked perfectly. We left the next morning with 80% on our batteries, so no issues whatsoever. And we definitely did all the things. We used the microwave, everything but running space heaters. We did it all and had no issues. We really sort of tried to put it to the test. We actually stopped at a rest area and I microwaved stuff for maybe 5 minutes straight. And if you know anything about the power draws of different items in an RV, a microwave uses a lot of power. It uses about the same power as like an air conditioner, which in fact we were able to turn on an air conditioner on when we stopped at a rest area as well. So really fantastic, really excited about using the power system from ABC Upfitters and Mastervolt a little bit more in the future. Unfortunately, our next stop was also supposed to be a Harvest Host, and we experienced a bit of a family tradition. Every time we hit the road in a new rig, one of our children gets sick. When we hit the road in our school bus conversion, I had just built all the kids' bunks and everything, brand new mattresses and everything, and one of our children puked all over it. Each different rig we've had, one of our kids has gotten sick on that first night. I don't know what it is about it, but this was no different. Ethan got sick on our first night in the rig. So our second night, we intended to stop at a Harvest Host again. But the one thing about Harvest Host is you don't have hookups, right? So we didn't have access to water. And what we really wanted for Ethan was for him to be able to take a long hot shower. And he really wanted that. He was begging for that as well. So we were supposed to stop at a lavender farm in Nebraska, but instead we stopped at a KOA in Ogallala, Nebraska. And it was fine. It wasn't anything special. It was just sort of an overnight spot, and it cost certainly a ton more than staying at the lavender farm would have been. We probably wouldn't have seen like beautiful lavender fields because it's a little early in the season for that. But it was a little disappointing to not be able to go to that spot. So we did stop at the KOA and we all took some very long showers, and that was really nice to have. It is one of the benefits of having an on-demand water heater. We have not had that before. And I do like that. There are things that I don't like about that, and we'll talk about that sometime in the future. I actually miss the 10-gallon water heaters that they used to put in Sabers, because we really were able to get full showers in those with scalding hot water. But the on-demand water heater has worked pretty well, and we were able to get, you know, some decent, hot, comfortable showers for a kid who was not feeling well, and that was nice to be able to do.
Spring is here, time to get your rigs ready for the travel season. This is the perfect time to complete those much needed upgrades or repairs, and that's where eTrailer.com comes in. eTrailer.com's customer service and enthusiast teams are ready to help you find the best solution for your unique situation. eTrailer's team is focused on putting their actual hands on everything they sell, so they know exactly what it's like to use the product, providing you, the customer, with quality service and recommendations based on personal experience. If you're looking for a one-stop shop, eTrailer.com has you covered with a variety of RV items, including towing options, interior accessories, replacement parts, storage, and more. But it doesn't stop with RVs. eTrailer.com offers tons of automobile accessories, campground gear, and more. If you need it, chances are they've got it. Visit the link in the description and receive free shipping on orders over $99.
We start traveling across the state of Nebraska, and oh boy, did the wind kick in. It was, I don't know what the wind speeds were, but let me describe it this way. Our truck, our new diesel truck, got 6.7 miles per gallon because it was a straight headwind. It was coming right at our noses. Wasn't struggling at all to drive it. You know, I wasn't feeling like uncomfortable or dangerous or anything like that, but the truck was working hard. 6.7, I rarely saw that low of fuel mileage in our gas truck. And just to compare that, coming up here to Breckenridge, coming up the pass, you know, up I-70 from Denver through the Eisenhower Tunnel, on that steep of a grade, we got over 10 miles a gallon. So I'm expecting that we're going to, you know, be in the 12 to 14 range generally when we're on the flats, based on my first drive with it across the state of Illinois when I picked it up from Elkhart. But 6.7 is rough for a diesel, and you know, whatever. I'm not complaining about the fuel cost or anything, but that's a lot of wind, right? So that's what we experienced across the state of Nebraska. The other thing about Nebraska that a lot of people don't realize, that I always forget too until we do it, is it seems super flat, right? It seems like one of the flattest states in the country. But actually, when you cross from east to west on I-80 through Nebraska, you're gaining 3,000 feet of elevation. You're making your way towards the Rockies, where there's going to be, you know, big elevation changes, and you're getting up there, and it is quite different heading from east to west than it is heading from west to east. So we did get a ton of wind heading to Ogallala, and then beyond once we left there and headed to Fort Collins. So it was quite a wild trip. Every time we would get out at a rest area or something, we would feel like we were just being blown over. Luckily, it started to settle down for us as we worked our way through Colorado into Wyoming. Last time we went to Fort Collins, you may remember we talked about this last year. We went to Fort Collins last fall without an RV to visit our friends who live in Fort Collins. And they're really great family friends. They were our sort of traveling buddies during the COVID pandemic, during 2020 and 2021. And they have settled down in Fort Collins. And as we traveled across I-80 last time, it just sort of continued on I-80 up into Wyoming, and then down I-25 into Fort Collins. Fort Collins is real close to the Wyoming border. And that is just such a great route. It is, I-80 is so nice through Wyoming. It was just some of the best road that we talked about. I think we fresh tanked this last fall, and it was just fantastic. So really easy, fun drive to get us to Fort Collins, Colorado. We ended up at the Horsetooth Reservoir, which is sort of in the foothills outside of Fort Collins, only like 10 minutes out of town. We're going to talk about that on a future episode, but that was our first couple travel days. We did all the things trying to figure out, you know, remembering where we put stuff inside, what we needed, what we don't, how the sleeping arrangements are really working out for us. all that sort of stuff, and started to get used to how our family functions on a travel day and on an overnight living in this RV. There were lots of little moments on the way that made us realize that it's been a while, made us feel like we're rookies, made us feel like, we shouldn't be taking this for granted, like we're experts in this after doing it for so many years. We need to do all the things. We need to have the checklists of like how everything gets put away in the rig. Like one of the things we knew when we built this rig was that there would be some little challenges. Like it is sort of meant for sitting at a campground for 2 weeks. Like moving the sofa, you kind of have to take the sofa apart, and there's all sorts of little stuff. We've got 4 slides and we've got the balcony and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot to do on a travel day. And, we have our lists about what comes in when and what needs to come off of what shelf and where things need to be swept before a slide comes in. What order do we want to bring the slides in? All that sort of stuff we're getting figured out, and we should probably be better about making lists and writing that down and figuring out how that all works. And now that we've had a few days under our belt, we're gonna go ahead and do that. So we are very comfortable. Now that you're watching this, it's been a couple weeks. I know we were off last week. If you don't know, if you missed us last week, we didn't have an episode last week because we just had so much going on, those travel days and then seeing our friends in Fort Collins. But also when we were in Fort Collins, it was like, okay, we need to go to the stores and get the stuff that we need that we didn't put in the rig and stuff that we forgot, all that sort of stuff. That was kind of the goal of this little visit to Fort Collins. And then we had all this stuff delivered to our friend's house in Fort Collins so that we could then take that over and put that in the rig and get it all ready. So there was a lot going on. So we weren't able to do an episode last week, and now Abby's not here this week, but next week she'll be back. And next week we'll be coming to you from somewhere in Western Colorado. All right, it's time to check the level of our tanks, or my tank this week, I guess. As always, sponsored by our friends over at Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment. They are giving away an Alliance Delta travel trailer. They're still giving it away, but that deadline to enter is coming up really, really soon. You can go enter for free, but then they have other ways you can enter, and restrictions apply. Of course, head over to liquefiedrv.com or the link in the description to go to the actual contest below. All right, my black tank this week is what the heck is going on with diesel exhaust fluid in this Ford truck. Now that we're on the road and we're towing and we're getting worse fuel mileage than you do getting just driving around, I'm sure others of you that own a Ford or maybe other brands have experienced this, but the diesel exhaust fluid has to be put in, at intervals. And what it does, it reduces the diesel emissions or whatever. And if you run low on diesel exhaust fluid, you get put into a limp mode where you can only drive so fast until you go get it. Well, the truck is sounding alarms at me saying, fill the DEF now, you're running low, fill the DEF, you only have so many miles left, you only have 485 miles left. The DEF tank is at, right now, 63% full. I filled it, just before we hit the road. Like I told you, that Quick Star has DEF at the pump, which is fantastic. So I filled it up there. Our first travel day wasn't over before it was yelling at me, oh, you're gonna need to fill up soon. Get ready to fill up soon. What's the point in giving me these warnings when you're giving them to me at 3/4 of a tank, at not even half a tank? I'm still at 63%, and it's telling me you need to fill up your diesel exhaust fluid right away. I don't get it. It's yelling at me every time I turn the truck on, and it annoys Abby more than it annoys me, but it's really annoying. So do any of you know, I've looked in the system, I haven't really read the manual or anything like that, but is there a way to change when it yells at me that I need diesel exhaust fluid? I would love to know in the comments. Thank you so much. And my fresh tank this week is this chair that I'm sitting in right now. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, now we have 2 new ones of these. The old one we had one of these before, and we got rid of it because it had finally fallen apart, but we used it for a very long time. And so now we have 2 new ones because they fit great on the balcony, the Saber sun deck, I should say, on our new 5th wheel. And what they are is just sort of a big puffy camp chair that really holds my weight. And it's warm and comfortable. I mean, look, I'm sitting in the snow right here right now, and I just feel great in this thing. And it's really warm. They actually make heated ones as well. Lots of different brands sell these. These are from Max Sports. They're the Max Sports Club Chair. The one thing I will say about these, if you get them, well, the two things I will say about them is they don't fold up super small. They still take up a decent amount of room in whatever storage you're putting them in. And the number two thing is don't let them get wet. It takes forever for them to dry if they get wet. Don't let them get wet. Like other camp chairs, if they sit out in the rain, usually they dry pretty fast. These absolutely do not, and that makes sense because they're padded, but they are super comfortable. I find, you think camp chairs, many of you know, we've had so many different camp chairs over the years. We've had lots of struggles with camp chairs over the years, them falling apart, all sorts of stuff. And I will say these have held up better than most. And I usually find my butt to be very uncomfortable in a lot of camp chairs. You wouldn't think so. You'd think it'd be kind of cradling or whatever. I find it to be hard as rock often. These are soft, not only on the sides, but on the bottom. You get nice armrests and all that sort of stuff. So check them out. I'll put a link to these in the description. If you want the exact ones we got, there are other brands like Kuma that make good ones as well. Kuma has one that has a battery pack that actually warms you up. So that's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast. Thanks for bearing with me being without Abby for this week. She'll be back next week for sure. And we'll be coming to you from wherever we're coming to you from in Western Colorado. Hey, we'd love it if you're over on Apple Podcasts and you'll leave a rating and a review over there. And maybe you want to tell somebody about the RV Miles podcast. If somebody's asking about what you listen to on your travel days. What do you do while you're driving down the road? Or what do you do when you're trying to pass the time at work? If you listen to the RV Miles podcast and people are interested in RVing, let them know to consider listening or watching us either on any podcast app or on YouTube. Thanks so much, everybody, and keep logging those RV miles. Bye-bye.